The Olsinski Law Firm is an official sponsor of Topbin90, specializing in personal injury, criminal defense, DWI, family law, and workers' compensation. The Olsinski Law Firm provides professional, trusted legal services to clients facing a variety of challenges. With a team of experienced attorneys dedicated to protecting your rights, the Olsinski Law Firm is the legal support you can count on.
Hi, I'm Justin Olsinski, the founding partner of the Olsinski Law Firm. Me and my wife started this firm back in 2010 with the sole purpose of providing excellent service to our clients, giving our clients a personal touch because we had worked in bigger firms where we saw that not happening. We handle criminal defense matters, civil personal injury, wrongful death, workers' comp, and family law matters. We have a team of attorneys that care about the outcome of your case, and we will fight to make sure that you get the justice you deserve.
Jorge Gonzales, Topbin90. We're excited today. We have a very, very fun, very cool interview that we're doing with Mr. AJ DeLaGarza. How are you today?
Good, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Three-time MLS Cup champ, three-time Supporter Shield winner, Open Cup winner, 2 LA Galaxy Defender of the Year awards. I feel like I'm in front of like MLS royalty right now, man.
Yeah. When you look back on it, man, it was a good career and definitely one that I'm proud of. So.
I love that. I first want to start, I think I watched a podcast that you did where you were kind of debating on whether you wanted to move to Maryland because you're from that area, Raleigh, and then like Charlotte was kind of in the mix, right? And so now that you're here, kind of give us like your perception of Charlotte in the area.
We love it out here, and I want to call it my forever home at this point. It just has a lot of different offerings in the sense of family-oriented, but also you have the beaches within a 3-hour drive. You have the mountains you can go to as well, even though I haven't been to the mountains. But from afar, I want to go there. So the fact that it's right there, is cool. And then the city's great, and it's much more diverse than I could have actually thought. So
nice. That's awesome. I know, LA Galaxy, big fan base, right? One of the most historic teams in MLS. Charlotte, we just got a team a couple of years ago. I know you've been to a couple of games. You've done some stuff with MLS. Maybe just give us a little bit about your perception of this team and the fan base here.
Yeah, honestly, the fan base was one of the reasons I wanted to move to Charlotte, and that there was an MLS team here in the Carolinas. And when we were looking to move back to either home, which was Maryland, and then we looked at Raleigh, and one day I told my wife, I was like, there's no soccer team in Raleigh. With all due respect to all due respect, I grew up in the MLS world as a DC United fan, and then obviously from there went and played for 14 years, and I couldn't go from having that my entire life to having none of that. So I hit up a couple people that I knew that had played in MLS and were either working in Charlotte or lived here, and I was like, yo, how do you like it? And they were like, yo, we love it. And then believe it or not, I was actually on the field when you guys won your first ever game.
Oh, wow.
I just so happened to be playing for New England at the time.
Right,
so, but that was the one and only time I've been to Charlotte, and it left a lasting impression to where I was like, you know what, this could be somewhere where I call home.
Nice. I love that. Well, I'm kind of glad we won that game. You're like,
Yeah, I wasn't playing. I was on the sideline warming up the whole time, but yeah, I remember when Ben Bender scored, and he's obviously a Maryland alum like myself. So
I think Swiderski scored that game too.
I think so, but I remember Ben specifically. He ran over to where we were warming up, and I was like, "Damn, I just want to trip him." So I didn't do it, but yeah, I remember those moments of how crazy that crowd was, and that impression I got was incredible.
I love that. What I want to do today is kind of go over your career a little bit. Just because, you've played with some great players, you've had a successful career, but take me back to the beginning when you first started, right? What made you want to play soccer? Was it what was that moment for you?
Yeah, first of all, I just learned that my parents put me in soccer when I was 4 years old. My dad told me over Christmas break, he was like, you know why we put you in soccer? He was like, because you were such a mama's boy that we needed you to find some independence. And I remember though, like wherever my mom would go, I'd be right there wrapped around her leg, and she would have to walk on the floor. I would be on the floor and she'd be walking down the in the house or wherever it was. I was attached to her.
You're like, there's
so,
AJ again.
they're like, so let's get this man in soccer. So, but I remember at that young age, you know, at that time I feel like I was faster than everybody, and I was also fierce at the same time. Like I would go get the ball, like I didn't care, or I'd play goalie and just take shots and block them all. And you know, I enjoyed the game at a very young age, and it kind of just stuck with me, and it became my passion.
I love that. That's great. And then obviously you touched on Maryland a little bit. You know, what was that process like, going to a school like that? You know, you guys became the NCAA champions, ACC champion as well. What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was a cool experience just because, you know, when I was in high school, thank you.
Thank you. We're actually here at Empire Pizza as well, and so this is one of our favorite spots. AJ's becoming a regular here as well.
I'm local here, so this is my location.
Nice, and then we also have some pizza coming through as well. Now, have you done interviews where they're bringing you food like this?
No, I've never been catered like this. So.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we're taking
Next
good
level,
care.
yeah.
We're taking good care of you today.
We could do this weekly.
We just start like a podcast at Empire every week. Nice. Well, you want to dig in first, I guess?
Let's do it. Go on.
All right, so we got lemon pepper, we got hot.
Love some lemon pepper.
Okay.
You like ranch or blue cheese though?
I'm a ranch guy.
Ooh. I just had this the other day for my daughter's birthday, but having it again.
Look at that. It's so good. Now,
I was in MLS 1.0. Now
this is
MLS at least, maybe I'll say 3.0 at this point.
All right, we're gonna do an episode at like 1 a.m. and call it MLS After Dark too.
There you go. Whatever it is.
Nice. Well, let's talk a little bit. Yeah. Talk to me about, you know, your time at Maryland. What did you see in college soccer at that time?
Yeah, it was one of the best experiences I think I could have imagined. For one, well, I was always living in the moment, so college soccer didn't hit me until, you know, it was right there around the corner. I was like, oh, I have an opportunity to go play in college? Like, great. So, you know, I did a couple unofficial visits, and then University of Maryland called. Sasha Sorofsky, who's still there, who I still keep in contact with, wanted me to come through. Another unofficial visit at that time. So I did it. And I remember at the end of my walkthrough of the campus and all, he was like, so, are you going to commit? And I literally sat there on the couch in his office with my dad, and I was like, I got to ask my mom. Like, I can't just commit right now. Like, but I was like, you know what? Like, it just felt right. Like, it was Maryland. It was where home is. It's where I grew up. I'd be 45 minutes away from my parents who could come to my matches. And
so your mom approved?
My mom approved eventually. But I was like, yeah, I'm coming. And then I called my mom after. I was like, hey, I'm going to Maryland. But yeah, you know, obviously I went there. It was funny, crazy story. Like, there's moments in your career that kind of define who you are and who you can become. And I think one of the biggest moments of my entire soccer career happened my very first game of my college career. I was a freshman. We were at Cal State Fullerton. We're winning like 5-0 already. And Sash comes up to me on the sideline and he says, I think I want to redshirt you this year.
Oh, wow.
And in that split second, it was like, all right, do I say yes and go sit back down on the bench for the entire year? Or do I say no, get some playing time this year, and you never know what comes after that, right? So I was like, I don't want to. Like, I want to play. And he was like, okay. So he put me in that game. Fast forward a couple weeks later, we played NC State, and after that game, we had lost, but that was my first real experience of college soccer. He had me man-mark this one player, I think his name was Aaron King, around the field. I did well. We still lost the game. But after that, Sash and the group meeting after, he was like, nobody on this team has a starting spot except for AJ. And here I am as a 17-year-old freshman, and like, what? Like, a couple weeks ago.
Your chest gets a little higher, huh?
Well, I had a little baby bird chest anyway. So, but I was like, yo, just a few weeks ago you wanted me to redshirt, but now here I am. So, that was a big moment, I think. And I never know how my career at Maryland could have turned out.
Yeah.
Because later that year I started in the national championship game, and then I'm still the only player in the university's history to start and win 2 national championships, which I take a lot of pride in.
That's
having
awesome.
been from Maryland and
hometown hero.
Yeah, a little bit, but now I'm just I need to get into the Hall of Fame somehow. So,
I love that.
If Sasha's watching this, I need to.
I read also somewhere that you modeled a little bit of your game kind of from Carlos Puyol. Is that true? Did I read that well?
I don't know about that. To be fair, I don't know if soccer was on TV like that back when I was younger to even model my game around him. I was more of a DC United fan. It was a local club of mine, obviously. But I grew up a Man U fan because that was pretty much the only team that was on. Interview's over. But that was pretty much the only team that was on TV back when I was younger.
That's fair,
so I was like, all right, Man U or DC United, and they were both red, black, and white, so it just kind of fit to my theme. And then Maryland's the same colors, so but
as a Liverpool fan, I'll let this one slide.
But no, I wouldn't say I'd try to model my game around Marco Echeverri, but he was my favorite player.
Legend. Yeah.
He was my favorite player, and we couldn't be any more opposite. So I enjoyed watching him though, growing up.
Nice. Let's talk about then when you get drafted, right? LA Galaxy, right? What was that moment like for you being drafted, right? What were you feeling? What was it like?
It was a bittersweet moment. One, man, I just got drafted. One, to the LA Galaxy. Again, I was living in the moments. When I was in college, I was in college. Like, I didn't think anything else about outside world or what's next. So when I got drafted, that was the first time I was like, oh, wow, I'm actually about to do this. So it was bittersweet in the fact that now I'm leaving home for the first time of my life, really. And that morning, I was still dating my wife, but we'd been dating since high school. She was like, oh, I just want you to be somewhere we're in the same time zone. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, there's a lot of possibilities. So it couldn't be further from the DMV
the
area.
Other side of the country.
Other side of the country, 3-hour difference. But I remember our first few years being separated. She was still finishing college. I was in LA. I would go out and hang out with my teammates late at night, and it would be 6 o'clock a.m. on the East Coast, 3 a.m. when I'd be getting home on the West Coast. She'll be getting up, going to work, and just different times. Yeah. But we did that for 2 years. But that was a bittersweet moment. But going to the Galaxy again was something that just aligned perfectly, right? You want to go somewhere where there's opportunity. Yeah. So Galaxy leading up to when they drafted me came in last place the year prior, and they also gave up the most goals the year prior. So for myself as a defender, I saw opportunities to go in there and make a difference. Yeah. And that's why I was brought in there. And I got to go in there also with a teammate of mine who I'd known well from the University of Maryland, Omar. And we lived together, and we just got to help one another through the entire process. It was good.
That makes it easier a bit.
Yeah, right? a lot easier. But we were on 2 different pay scales, though. So we weren't doing the same things out there. We weren't hanging around the same people. So we grew apart a little bit, and then later in our years, we grew back. And then now we talk every day.
I love that.
On FaceTime. So. It's great to see him still playing and enjoying the game.
Nice. And so, what was it like going into a locker room like that? You got Bruce Arena, who was, a legend of the game, right? Yeah. As a manager, you have David Beckham, you have Landon, Donovan. Like, what were your impressions like?
Yeah, Bruce. Like, Bruce was the guy that I watched grow up with DC United.
Yeah.
I played with Dave Sarachan when I actually played on DC United. Before it was academies were even real, DC United put together a team. We went over to Paris, France, and we actually played in the Danon Cup but we played PSG over there in their home stadium. We played Manchester United. We played Orlando Pirates from South Africa. So really cool experience. So being able to see now Bruce be my coach, Dave again, being my coach was another surreal moment. And again, I didn't. Actually, I was a little starstruck. I was about to play it cool, but I remember when David Beckham walked in for the first time, and me and Omar looked at each other. We were like, "Oh shit! Like, this is for real. Like, this is David Beckham." But he came halfway into the year because he was on loan at AC Milan, so there was a little bit of turmoil in the locker room already. So, but yeah, that was a cool moment. But
nice.
Obviously, some legends of the game, guys that had been in World Cups, and when Omar and I had got there, our rookie year, there was guys like Tony Sana, there was Greg Berhalter came in that year, so Chris Klein, Eddie Lewis, all these guys that had played in World Cups and all. So, you know, we had a real good group of veteran guys that showed us the way, and I think helped propel our careers.
Nice. And then the 2010 season, you guys won the Supporters Shield, right?
Yep. Supporters Shield. Yeah.
What was that season like? You know, obviously I think you lost in the conference final that year, but it was still had a successful season, right? So talk to me about that.
I mean, even if you go back to our rookie year, you know, I played in quite a few games. I think almost 20 games my rookie year, which I had no expectations, but had a good fair share of games and learning experiences. I remember we started that year, I think 1-1-11, so we tied 11 games. We had one win, but we started clicking later, mid to late season, and we ended up losing the Supporters Shield by 1 point that year, which was crazy. Ended up losing in the MLS Cup Finals my rookie year, which I got to play in that game as well, in PKs against Salt Lake. So.
Those are tough.
A harsh first year, but it led to that second year, which was incredible. I think we lost 5 games that year overall, and I had more contributions to the team that year. And yeah, we started to click in 2010, and then unfortunately we bombed it in the playoffs, and I think we got smoked by FC Dallas. So that was tough, and then.
The following
year, we put it all together. We had we won we won the Supporters Shield, and then we won MLS Cup. So that was a cool moment. And the best part about that was at the end of the year, I got all those bonuses, those win bonuses, and Supporters Shield bonus, the MLS Cup bonus, and it was more than my entire yearly salary. So,
did you buy anything fun? Did you do anything?
I still couldn't afford nothing. But
you're like, it's LA.
Yeah, I lived in LA, bro. But that was my first year being married, so yeah, I had to recoup those that wedding fees and all that. So
nice, I love that. Okay, talk to me a little bit more about what that feeling is like, you know, actually like accomplishing that, because that's very few people do anything like that, like winning an MLS Cup, right? And you won 3, you know, and Supporter Shields, right? So what was that moment after the whistle blew, right? I think it was Houston Dynamo that you guys beat that first year, right? And so what were the emotions going through?
I think, one, I've been lucky enough to win multiple youth national championships.
It's the serial winner over here. I'm kidding.
But, you know, I've been lucky enough to be in these positions and on teams that we've been and done well. I like to think myself as a leader in the back. So, you know, having won the youth national championships, to obviously winning 2 college championships, to now bringing the pros, it's a lot different, right? Like, it's not that it's not fun, but you got guys out here who are fighting for their lives and fighting for paychecks to feed their families. So like, it's not like college or youth soccer where you're like, all right, like I'll just do it again next year, right? Like these guys put a lot of stuff, work into their craft to at the end of the year raise a title. And I feel like in 2010, we did so much good to kind of bomb out in that postseason was tough, to where 2011 we clicked from the beginning all the way to the end. And I think that was a special moment. I think especially for someone like David, who came to MLS to kind of change the culture and the landscape of the league. And I think that was a pivotal moment for him, but also for the league and the LA Galaxy.
Nice. And then just to give some people perspective, because MLS has changed a lot in the last, 10, 14 years, right? So, I mean, like...
It's changed a lot since I joined.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, during those times, obviously now, like, the minimum salary is slightly better, but nothing amazing, right? And so even then, it was probably...
They're doing better than I was doing. But that's good. I'm happy for them in that. So, but yeah.
Awesome. Let's take some more bites of this food, man. I'm getting kind of hungry now.
Okay, the buffalo.
It's good, right?
Yeah. Pizza is definitely one of our go-tos, and especially Empire Pizza. It's close to here, and
they're great.
Right in our back door. So my daughter she wanted pizza for her birthday, so we ordered pizza from here, and it's great every time.
The stars aligned for this interview, then.
That's when you said Empire. I was like, oh, I'm down.
So 2011, and you guys won it again 2012, right? Against Houston again.
Again, yes.
Right?
Same teams. Crazy.
I think also in MLS in the past, there's really been like a certain period of time where some teams are very top,
Yeah, consistently.
Yeah. Like I remember the LA times. I remember, Toronto versus Seattle,
Yeah, over and over.
Yeah.
But think about it, that was Houston versus Galaxy in the finals was crazy because Houston went through the Eastern Conference playoffs, having been in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
So like, times were just different.
Yeah.
You don't see that anymore. And I think one year the New York Red Bulls were playing in the Western Conference playoffs because the way just
It's
the
like
line.
peak MLS. MLS is like, we'll figure out how to make it work.
We'll figure it out. And they still change the rules every year. So for the playoff structure. So
nice.
Yeah.
Was there any difference between winning your second MLS Cup and the first one?
Well, the first one actually started in the game and played, and
that's right.
I contributed to the goal that happened in that 1-0 win. Nobody knows it because all they know is that Beckham flicked on the header to Robbie Keane, who slipped it in to Landon Donovan. So they were like, oh, our 3 DPs, but I think I was on the field and I was probably making the least amount of money as anyone who played Beckham that ball at least. So and that second year, unfortunately, I gotten hurt, and that was one of my first games back was like the MLS Cup Finals. So, but when I got hurt, Tommy Meyer had done a really good job playing center back. So Bruce was like, I can't make that switch. So it was different in that aspect.
Right.
That one I was on the field and one I wasn't. But I think that journey on that second year was a little crazier because we just squeezed into the playoffs, and then somehow we're hosting a home playoff game to win MLS Cup. So everything just aligned correctly to where there was one team that we could host and it'd be at home, and it was Houston Dynamo. So we both made it to MLS Cup Finals, and we got to host them back-to-back years.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. Yeah. All right, now take me to the last one you won, 2014, and we don't have to get into it too much, right? But that was a very difficult year for you, right? And so from the start of it, you lost your son, all the way to the final. Can you give us a little, maybe insight about how that year went for you?
Yeah, that was a crazy year, obviously, the birth of our son, but one, we knew the heart defect that he had at about 22 weeks when my wife was pregnant. So it wasn't like it just popped up on us. So this was something I had to play with every single day, right? But I found comfort, and I found the game being my safe space. So where, you know what, I can go here inside these white lines, I can go play the game that I love and enjoy and actually have control over my performance for 90 minutes a day, right? So that brought me joy. Because I couldn't control what was happening with my son as he's growing inside of my wife's body, and everything that was going to be complicated after he was born. So, I really enjoyed my time, and I think it was the best year of my career, statistically as well. And yeah, you top that off with an MLS Cup at the end of the year. It was, a bittersweet year, but one that ended with a lot of joy.
Yeah. Looking back, was there anything that you mentioned to your teammates or something? Because, when someone's going through something like a hardship like that, some people just don't know how to either comfort or what to say, right? And so sometimes it's kind of awkward too,
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even have to say much. They just knew. Some of them had already had kids, so they'd been in those situations, the unimaginable, right? So guys were like, yo, what can we do? And it wasn't necessarily asking me to come up with ideas. They were like, what can we do for you? Here's what we are going to do. So from the simple fact of, they had jerseys or shirts created the day before Luka was born. We played DC United. It was a home game. We all came out in Luka Knows Heart shirts the day before his birth. So just those little moments. And I think that year was special because of the moment with me and my family, but also other situations that had happened during that year. Landon, Donovan had been left off the World Cup roster. So we were there for each other. It was a close-knit family, and those moments bring teams together. And we'd also played with each other now for 6+ years, so we all knew each other inside and out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you talk about camaraderie. I think that was the best locker room I think I'd been a part of.
Oh, I love that, man.
Yeah.
I mean, so many different emotions going through, right? And then, to culminate it with at least something positive like MLS Cup, right? Through your time at LA, right? What was your relationship with the fan base? Because I feel like it was kind of like a very strong relationship that you had.
Yeah, I would say they are like family. It's crazy because I don't know if most players get to feel that close to fans. I think it's because of the stories and the situation that I went with my son, and they felt so connected to me. I think because, one, they saw how much I gave to the club my 6 years prior, to where they were there for me also. There were fans getting tattoos that I have of my son on themselves that maybe I hadn't even met, but they felt so attached to me and my story and what we were doing that they got tattoos as well. So
that speaks volumes of who you are as well, So
yeah.
I always think if you're a good person and do good things, that always reciprocates, So
yeah, so I think again those moments bring you closer.
Yeah.
Me sharing our story and what we were going through, I think brought them insight to my world and really put a light on it. And I think they appreciated what I was giving back to the club on the field.
Nice. Now looking back, right? Now that you're kind of out of the game, right?
Done.
That time period in LA. What do you What are some of the things that stick out to you now versus when you were kind of in the heat of the moment?
Man, I think looking back, a lot of things have changed now. Remember, I was in MLS 1.0, 2.0 maybe, but even down from just chartered flights. We didn't have chartered flights back then, so we were on commercial flights. But the best part about that was you weren't leaving right after an away game. You got to stay where you were, and those are the moments that you create that team bonding events. You go out together, you go have a drink, whether you win or lose, man, you just get out there. And I think that's what kind of lacked later in my career when there was charter flights, right? It was after a game, all right, everybody get on the plane, we're all going home, and everybody goes their separate ways. There's not that real time to bond.
Interesting.
And get to know one another on a different level. And I think the teams that can do those, I think have the most success. I think you look at the Seattle Sounders, the guys that have been together for a long period of time, probably had those moments. And I think if you look at any successful team, you see a good core group of guys that know each other very well and bond together very well, and at the end of the day, win titles.
Yeah, I love that. Speaking of bonding, obviously after you win also, you have some really fun times, right? What can you, I've watched the pod, you talked a little bit about a day later you have like a little bit of a hangover and something happened.
Yeah.
Could you share any like fun like after title winning like celebrations that you can remember?
Well, some of them I don't remember. You know, we were in LA, so you know the club scene was great. I remember Beckham got us like custom suits one year.
Okay.
But I got to the club and I eventually threw my suit jacket, and I was like, damn, why'd I do that? Like, that's gone now. So, but it was funny. We were like one of the last ones to leave the club, and I'm walking out.
I'm gonna go on eBay and search.
Well, I
DeLaGarza
was walking out, and my suit jacket is still sitting there on the floor. So I jacked it back, and I got to take it home, thankfully. So I still have that jacket.
Okay, nice.
But yeah, there was the morning afters were always the hardest moments, especially when you got to check out of a hotel at 11, 12 o'clock. Like, I probably should have just stayed in bed and slept a little bit longer. But yeah, I had an incident in the car while I was driving, and that was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. So thankfully, I pulled over before it happened.
Nice.
But yeah, that was bad. But I did it before I got home because my wife she got a phobia of throwing up. So yeah, I threw that jacket in the trash before I got inside. So
Nice.
yeah, that was the nastiest moment. But yeah, that's the only crazy, I think, moment that I have, honestly. I wasn't too much of a partier, honestly. Like, that's why I won 2 drinks, and I'm probably feeling it. So.
Let's transition over to your time a little bit at Houston. You know, I'm from Honduras.
Yeah,
There's a lot of Honduran players that were there. I think Buñet Garcia was there, Albert Ellis, Romel Kyoto.
Yeah.
Right? Talk to me about your time a little bit in Houston. What was that like? What was that experience?
Yeah.
Did you try any Honduran food?
I don't know if we did.
Oh
honestly.
man, we gotta get on these guys. Then.
Yeah, it was just different. But let's see. I don't know. My time in Houston started off a little, not rocky, but it was because of the situation of how I got to Houston. Right. Like, it was
quick.
A blindsided trade. After the Galaxy said they weren't going to trade me, and I was like, cool. I'm going to do whatever I can to compete for a spot here and continue to do what I've been doing over my career, my last 8 years here, right? So to then get home one day from a workout from the facility and get a missed call and a text that says, hey, give me a call back from the GM, and then him say, hey, we just traded you to Houston. To be like, man, you couldn't just help me to where I wanted to go back home to play in front of my family.
Yeah.
I now had kids, so I was like, man, this would be great. My kids can grow up with their grandparents from my side and my wife's side. So that was my request, and they were like, nope, we're not trading you. So to then trade me to Houston, who had now been in last place 2 years prior to when I got there, right? But it turned quickly to, all right, it is what it is. I remember that first day I was probably crying a little bit.
Did they give you any explanation for that? Or it was just like, well, this was just the deal that we decided to
No, that was just the deal that they decided to go with. I just wish it would have been communicated with me, and because they had helped other players get to where they wanted to go before that, who maybe hadn't been at the club for as long and played as many games and
didn't have the pedigree that you had.
And then also had that relationship with not even just the fans, but the front office. Like I would go up to the front office every day and just check in with those guys, like upstairs, and girls, and just laugh and joke with them as well. So it was really like a family of mine. So that was disappointing. But again, I was like, all right, this is a new opportunity to do something different, experience something new with a new coach, a new city, and start over. And so I relished that opportunity, and I think that first year we surprised a lot of people in our performances, and the sense that we were a high-flying team. It was defend with 8, attack with those 3 Hondurans up top, and let them run. And they were great our first year, and we finished 4th in the Western Conference, which I'm sure was a shock to everybody. But then, unfortunately, the last game of the regular season, I tore my ACL, so I missed the playoffs that year. But again, we made it to the Western Conference Finals. So it started off as a great year, and unfortunately ended in another, you know, defining moment of my career, I would say, because you never really return as good as you were.
Talk to me about that a little bit, you know, because I mean, like, I've torn both my ACLs. Wasn't a professional at all, but you know, like, when that's your sport and you're playing it, like, mentally, how do you combat that after you experience it?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part, is the mental part of it, because physically, all right, you're not out there running around and having to get fit and all that, but you got to have your mind right in the first place. So that was the hardest part. And then, you know, you're in Houston. It was, here's the PT room, here's all these glass windows, and there's the field right there. So every day I'm doing PT, and I can see all the guys training every single day, and it's just like, damn, like, I want to be out there. Like, how long is this going to take? And unfortunately, it took quite a while. And then even when I felt ready, I was like, yo, coach, I'm ready. Like, just let me play some games. And they were like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I'm sure. So I felt like I was about to be back in about 6 months. And then I ended up tearing my quad. So I was back another month. So it ended up being a long journey. But one, I was proud of the work that I put in the PT room, just to make it back to the field. You know, a lot of players just don't even make it back out there, because it's tough. It's a mental grind. So especially when there's those glass windows and you can see everything happening. So
it's kind of like, not to make light of the situation a little bit, like, you ever seen like this Squidward meme where he's looking at SpongeBob and Patrick from like the window? Yeah. That's like the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, that was me. You should show that clip right now. Looking out the window.
I guess, what are some other moments that you remember from Houston? Like, just your 2 years there.
3. Well, yeah, you could say 2, since I missed one whole year almost. But I remember knocking the Galaxy out of the playoff picture the last game of the year on decision day, and that was crazy. That was 2018. The week before that, they had just beaten Minnesota on the road, which is a big win for them. And they were doing interviews that we talk about, you know, teams don't want to see us in the playoffs. And I was like, hold up, like, you guys still need to get a result against us, the Houston Dynamo, who haven't won a road game in 2018. So you guys are already counting us out, saying these interviews. And for me, I was like, all right, like, let's see what happens. So we go in there, we're down 2-0. I give up a goal on a corner kick. We're like, damn, they beat us. And then, you know, things start clicking for us in the second half, and we ended up beating them 3-2 and knocked them out of the playoffs. And, you know, I remember Ashley Cole being, come on, man, like, you're not going to help your club out. But, yeah.
Did you get any stick for anybody else, like, the fans during that game?
One, I drew a PK. So, you know, fans were actually mad that somebody else kicked me in the chest. I was like, yo, I can't control that. Like, he kicked me, I fell down. Like, it was a PK. Like, but yeah, I did get a lot of stick from that from quite a few fans. But yeah, it is what it is.
It's part of the game.
Yeah, just that competitive nature of myself, right? Like, it's all right. I'm back in LA. I have a chance to knock my former club that traded me away, kick them out of the playoffs, and I think that was a moment for me that, you know, I remember in my Houston days, anyways. But unfortunately, I remember most the injuries that happened, and that was the reason I was like, all right, I tore my ACL, I broke my foot, I tore my quad. Like, I was like, all right, I need something different. I need to change the scenery. Maybe it's too hot out here, so. Yeah, and then I went to Miami. Probably, I don't know if that was hotter or what, but.
That was my next question to you. That brief time in Miami that you spent, I mean, from sharing a locker room sometimes with David Beckham to now this guy owns the team. What was that dynamic like? Was it weird at all, or was it like, how did you?
No, it wasn't weird, but it was funny when he would come around, and then I'd be like, yo, can I get a photo? Just because, like, it's cool. Like, now we're into Miami gear, and now you're the owner, and people are like, yo, you already know him. Like, why are you taking pictures? Like, you guys already have so many photos together. So, yeah, but it's pretty cool. You know, I was the first teammate of his to play on his club, and then came Matuidi. So I think we might be the only two that played with him Well, I guess Messi now as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how many other players now, but at that time it was me and then Matuidi. So, you know, those were cool moments because I think he saw what I had done with the Galaxy in my earlier career and, you know, wanted to bring me along on this Inter Miami inaugural year. Unfortunately, it was only one season, but you know, he trusted me enough to bring me to his club. So,
and it was a COVID year, so it was weird in general, you know.
Yeah, it started off crazy, and then it ended up with COVID. So yeah, that was a wild year, and one I really, when I look back, there was a lot of what ifs, right? Like, what if I didn't get hurt as much in Houston? What if I didn't tear my ACL in Houston my first year? But in Miami, I was like, man, what if COVID didn't happen? And I think that would have been a really cool place to be long term and have settled down. I could have played with Messi eventually.
Yeah.
But I think I retired before he came anyway, so I was done. But yeah, it was a great club, honestly, when I was there.
And then you spent some time with New England, right, with Bruce.
Yeah, I went back to Bruce.
Yeah.
I remember I wasn't playing in Miami at all. And I went to the coach and was like, Coach, what can I, he had a translator. I was like, what can I do to get on the field? Like, we were not good. Like, we had the worst record in a new franchise's history. Started out 0-5, and I was like, what can I do to get on the field? And he was like, you do everything well. He was like, I just want a taller and faster center back. And I was like, all right, so everything I've done in my career so far, which has been, I think, an accomplished career.
You're very accomplished.
You're not going to play me because I'm not big enough or fast enough. It's like, all right, so I remember I hit up Bruce because we were still close.
Right.
I was like, and Lee Win had just been traded from Miami to New England. I was like, hey, Bruce, can I jump in the car with Lee Win or what? It didn't happen, but that offseason, you know, I was a free agent again. And ended up going to New England to be reunited with Bruce. So
nice. And then that year they won the Supporters Shield, correct?
Yeah, that year we won the Supporters Shield. Again, Bruce knows how to structure a team and put his best players out on the field.
Yeah.
And it gets results.
Yeah. I mean, you guys had Heel. I think Matt Turner was part of that team.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
we look at that roster.
Buchanan.
We had DeJuan Jones, Matt Turner, Adam Buxa.
Yep.
And Adam Buxa wasn't even a starter, so like you got to bring him in off the bench, and you know he was, I think, a big part of why we were successful. Because in New England, we were all about getting crosses off from our wide play, and when you have a guy that's 6'4" in the box that can mix it up and get his head on the end of crosses, it was a game changer. So, you know, even when we were down late in games, we were like, all right, like we're gonna figure out a way because we'll just bring on Tejan and we'll just bring Carles in as a sub late in some games. So, you know, we just had moments to where we just somehow pull it off, and it was crazy.
Love that.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward a little bit to the end where, you know, you got an opportunity to sign a day contract with LA Galaxy, where it started off for you. What was that like? What was that experience?
Yeah, I knew in the summertime of my final year in New England, I was like, all right, this is, the writing's on the wall for one. Two, my body hurts. Like, I feel it every morning coming down when I got to put 2 feet on every step and really grip tight on that handrail coming down the stairs. I was like, all right, it's probably time. And I wasn't playing, so it was like, all right, why am I putting my body through this to just be a number in training every week, honestly? So I was like, I'm ready to start that next chapter of my life. So I reached out to the Galaxy in that summer. I was like, hey, if I decide to retire, is this a possibility? Like, I'd seen other guys do it at different clubs, and they were like, yeah, we would love to do that. So I was the first player to do that with the Galaxy, to sign a one-day contract and retire as a Galaxy player. So, you know, they treated me well in that sense. And, yeah, that's why I say I never talk badly about them publicly because I still went back there, and the same GM or same president that had traded me away was still there when I came back. So a cool moment.
Yeah, I think also it's cool for you and also for the fan base because, you know, like you get to start loving players that you see like come up through your team, right? So them seeing you come back, I think was extra special for that fan base as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think we never got like a proper goodbye, right? Like,
Yeah.
I literally got traded, and then a couple of days later, I had to leave out of town. So that was a proper goodbye and thank you. I had fans come out to my retirement party, and it was a good night.
Nice. I love that. Okay, just a couple more questions and we'll finish. Thanks, by the way, for this.
All good.
This has been great. You know, one thing that stood out was last year, to me, TST, we saw Zala in the tournament, right? And then Justin Merrim, who played for Charlotte, he was part of that squad. Talk to me about what kind of happened for you to kind of have a team at TST.
Man, I was one of the first ever teams in TST. Funny story, they'd reached out to Omar Gonzalez with just the concept early on. It was like, hey, do you think you know anybody interested, or would you be interested, Omar? He was still playing.
Yeah.
And again, this was the summer of 2022, and I was like, I'm already feeling like I'm going to retire, so I'll probably do it. So it just lined up well, right? Like I had retired. I got into the work I got into with my team Zala at that point, and put together what I felt like was a really good team my first year. And I was like, yo, we're about to cakewalk through this. Like, got a bunch of guys who just retired, myself, Lee Wynn, Mikey Ambrose, Tony Roca, had a couple indoor guys, and I was like, this is gonna be easy. It was not easy, but it was, I think, the most fun I ever had in my life.
I love that.
In a soccer tournament, like, it was crazy. Just that ending on a goal, and then
target time.
Target score time was incredible, and it just, we had come back 2 games where we were down 3-1 going into the quarterfinal game, going to target score time, came back and beat Raleigh Rebels, and then we were down 3-0 against Como going into the, I don't know if that was the quarterfinals actually. So 3-0, ended up winning 4-3 in target score time. So those were some crazy moments.
Yeah.
And,
it's such a wild, like, if you don't go to TST or you just see it, it's such a wild kind of concept a little bit about who's out there. Like, I remember taking a video because I have a Greek friend who's a big Greece fan, and Karagunis was there, and like in front of him was Materazzi taking a picture with Chris Paul. And I sent him, he's like, this is the most random group of people together.
Well,
and I feel like that's how kind of TST is.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Chris Paul is the owner of TBT as well, so he got into the soccer world. You know all these guys, they all love soccer. So like, how can we grow this game? And I think this was an incredible tournament, incredible concept, and made me come back for year 2. And I was like, all right, I need some more firepower. Like, I always knew year 1 was going to be the easiest to win it.
Yeah.
But once people hear about it, it's going to blow up.
That's a good point, yeah.
Year 2, I was like, all right, need more firepower. I'm going to bring in Justin Merrim and CJ Sapong and Graham Zusi.
Yep.
And I was like, this is about to be another cakewalk. And we didn't make it out of our group. So, you know, the game is just a lot different than 11v11, unfortunately. Literally, you just think about it, like, hold-up play. CJ Sapong is used to trapping the ball totally different than a guy that plays in MASL. Like, they trap the ball on the bottom of their foot because everything's so close that then they can roll people. Like, all right, that's just not CJ's game. So, or myself as defenders, like, it's totally different, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah, it didn't connect well last year for us, unfortunately. And there's a lot of things that happened that last day where it's like, damn, if we didn't get scored on one more time or we scored one more goal, we would have at least made it through the knockout rounds. But again, it was a cool experience. And but last year I told my boy who put in a team, I was like, yo, if you don't make it out of your group, like, you don't deserve to come back next year. Like, just talking shit to him. And we didn't make it out of our group. So I'm not coming back next year. So, yeah. So not doing it next year though. So we'll see. I would love to go there and watch those some of my boys potentially.
For sure. And then I guess just looking back at now, like, through your career, like, what are maybe like 1 or 2 moments that you're like most proud of looking back through, you know, your time in MLS, winning MLS Cup, Supporter Shields? Like, what are some of the moments that really stick out to you?
I think just the, you know, when you ask former athletes, what do you miss most about the game? It's always the locker room, right? Like, I miss those connections, like just being able to talk with your boys every day, and you don't have that anymore, especially now. I work with a Swedish sport tech company, right? Most of my colleagues live in Sweden, so we don't really get to connect and bond like I would in a locker room. But thankfully they are former footballers as well, so we have that bond.
Yeah.
But it's not the same,
Yeah.
right? Like, but I'm proud of. I mean, you could say that the championships, I think, were something you are remembered by, right? And I think you look back, there's a lot of great players who never won a championship. So just to be in those positions as many times as I was, I think was something that I should be proud of. I don't harp on them too much. My daughters like to pull out my championship rings and put them on. She was like, "Can I wear this to school?" I'm like, "No, not a chance." But yeah, I think those are moments that I'm proud of, and one day I'll look back on and be like, "Wow, that was actually incredible." So
Nice. AJ, now that we have you here in Charlotte, in this area, what are you up to here?
yeah, so I mentioned I'm working with a Swedish sport tech company, but now that this is my forever home, I want to set some roots here, and now I'm creating an indoor soccer facility in collaboration with Middle James Brewery out in Pineville.
Okay.
So for me, I'm trying to create a space where kids can come have fun, kids can train, but it's entertainment through development.
Okay.
Or they're being developed through entertainment, whatever it may be. So there'll be some cool tech in there. We'll be able to do small
Nice.
group trainings and stuff, and really give these kids a safe space to, even come play organized pickup, right? I think there's something in that, letting these kids kind of be in control of their own development a little bit as well. So
Okay.
I'm excited for this collaboration and seeing where it can go.
Nice. Yeah. Let me know a little bit more. I'd definitely like to come by one day once you guys have everything finalized
bro,
too.
we'll have a big old party there. So
Perfect.
be
All
cool.
right. Maybe David Beckham will show up.
Hey, anything can happen.
Thank you so much for your time today. It was great chatting with you a bit,
Yeah,
having
man.
some food here at Empire. Thanks again.
Appreciate it, man.